Good to have you with us on this Monday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Lots happening over the weekend. You know, if you'd look at the mainstream media, you would think that Hillary Clinton is the female version of the Pope or Mother Teresa or Gandhi or what. I mean, she could do no wrong. It's almost as if the campaign is over with and Hillary is a slam dunk. Get the emails out of the way, get the testimony out of the way. Oh, yeah, she's against TPP and Keystone, so we've got this thing wrapped up. Hold the phone. Now, there are some serious questions in the Sanders camp right now. What is the best strategy to regain the momentum, or should we say the attention? I don't think that Bernie Sanders has lost any momentum with his supporters or the people that are sending him $5 and $10 and $25, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the little guy out there who wants a voice, who recognizes that Wall Street is the issue in this campaign. But the fact is, we as consumers in the news business have been smothered with Hillary Clinton accolades, smothered with Hillary Clinton, this, that, and the other. Okay, she had great testimony. She dodged a big-time bullet and proved that there is a political machine behind what they were doing to take down her campaign. But what is her campaign about, and is it best for America? So Bernie Sanders on Saturday night focused in on two things at the Jefferson-Jackson Dinner in Iowa, talking about where his position has been all along on the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and also the Keystone XL pipeline. Here's Bernie on TPP.
And let me be clear about the current trade deal that we are debating in Congress, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That agreement is not now, nor has it ever been, the gold standard of trade agreements. I did not support it yesterday. I do not support it today, and I will not support it tomorrow.
See, now that is a key statement, because a lot of people think that Hillary Clinton, whereas she is saying she's against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that she could move on it. There are fundamental wrongs within this trade deal that will never move Bernie Sanders on this particular deal. The other issue is Keystone. Here it is.
And if you agree with me about the urgent need to address climate change, then you know immediately what to do about the Keystone pipeline. This was not a complicated issue. Should we support the construction of a pipeline across America, accelerating the extraction and transportation of some of the dirtiest fossil fuel in the world? To me, that's a no-brainer, and that's why I have opposed the Keystone Pipeline from day one.
So those are the two big issues that Bernie wants to hammer home with supporters, along with the fact that if he's president, he would absolutely do things differently with Wall Street, that he would try to regulate the casino gambling that's taken place there with hedge fund managers. So how is this being received by the Clinton campaign? It seems to me that the Clinton campaign is looking for a narrative to go after Bernie. And those two comments that you just heard from Sanders out on the stump in Iowa is being countered by John Podesta in the Clinton campaign as negative.
I think Bernie Sanders seemed to have a course correction in the JJ dinner, from one in which he said he wasn't going to go negative to obviously focusing his fire on her.
Fire on her? What Bernie Sanders is doing is differentiating his campaign, his position on the issues versus Hillary's. There's nothing negative about that. So it seems to me that the Clinton people are still pretty doggone nervous about the fact that these grassrooters are out there supporting Bernie. They continue to grow. He has the money to counterpunch. The question is, how aggressive is he going to get? It would seem to me that Wall Street is the big issue. Wall Street's connected to the Senate. Wall Street's connected to campaign finance. Wall Street's connected to the billionaires. And the billionaires are running our campaigns right now and running our government and kicking out the little guy. Now, if Bernie Sanders can capitalize that in a 30-second piece and drive it home with the American people, I think he's going to continue to grow in his campaign. But being aggressive and not being negative, this is something to watch. Joining me now is Tad Devine, who is a political director for Bernie Sanders, right in the war room in his campaign and directing traffic. Tad, good to have you back with us.
Ed, great to be with you.
John Podesta is out there saying that there's been a course correction by your campaign and that Bernie is going negative. I want your response to that.
My response is that's absolutely not true. Bernie Sanders is a guy in his entire career who's never run a negative ad attacking an opponent, and I don't see this as being the first campaign where he will. There are legitimate policy differences between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton on big issues like trade, like the environment and the Keystone Pipeline, like whether or not we should break up the big banks, like leadership on, equality in this society. I mean, Bernie Sanders has a long record of fighting for it. And these are legitimate differences. Bernie's been talking about these differences for months. I saw Bernie, for example, on Jake Tapper's show yesterday, and Jake raised some of this stuff as though perhaps this was a new element to the campaign. And I remember 2 or 3 months ago when Jake said, do you have differences with Hillary Clinton? And Bernie said yes, and he enunciated those differences. Now, at that time, he had more differences with her because she was supporting the TPP and basically supporting the Keystone Pipeline. I would agree there maybe are fewer differences today than there were a couple of months ago. But nevertheless, these are real, serious substance differences. This is not a negative campaign. This is going to be a campaign where we talk about real issues that people care about, and where there are differences, he'll be upfront about it.
It's pretty clear that the media has spent a lot of time on Hillary in recent days because of her testimony. We've been smothered, actually, by network coverage of Hillary's campaign. Big talk about her fundraising the day after the testimony. Is this a momentum issue for Bernie Sanders? How do you feel about the campaign right now?
Ed, I feel really good about the campaign. I mean, I think we've seen some polling in Iowa and New Hampshire where Hillary's gained some ground, but I attribute that to the, more than $5 million that they've spent on television in Iowa and New Hampshire. We were never going to spend as much money as she does, but we wanted to get to a point where we have as much money as she does. And we reached that point at the end of the last quarter. I mean, I think as of today, given the way we've spent money, which I think is very responsibly, and also the way the campaign has raised money, which is at a phenomenal and unprecedented rate, we actually have more cash on hand than they do. And that's going to put us in a position to compete with them, with media in the early states, with organization on the ground, beginning in Iowa and New Hampshire, the other early states, and then moving into the Super Tuesday states as well. So, I think we're in an excellent position right now to compete with her, and I think we're going to make real progress, particularly in those early states, once we move to a media phase of the campaign.
Well, what's the view of the first caucus state, the first primary state? If you lose those two and you still got money in the bank, you have to think whether you did the right thing or not. So, I mean, isn't this a moment to really pour the resources in and get those two victories, and hopefully they'll be a game changer?
Yes. Our strategy all along has been to begin this in Iowa and New Hampshire and not just try to compete there, but try to win there. And, we have the resources. Now, I think in Iowa, I think we have over 70 paid staff now on the ground in Iowa. We have a large paid staff in New Hampshire. But we also have, in addition to, large paid staff presence, an incredible grassroots organization of volunteers that are coming out in both those states, and really in states all across the country, people organizing themselves, being part of the campaign. So we're going to do everything we need to do to win. I mean, I personally didn't think we needed 6 months of television advertising in Iowa and New Hampshire. I think 3 months is going to be, enough of to let people get to know Bernie Sanders and to deliver his message. And I think we've had a success. I mean, they've probably spent between the placement of television, the production expenses, the millions they've spent on polling before they started their advertising campaign. I think they've spent over $7 million in an area where we've spent zero. So I think we gain an advantage when they spend a lot of money on something that we don't spend money on, and yet we're in a position to fully compete in that arena. So I'm very pleased about where we are today.
I think most Americans recognize that if Bernie Sanders was not in this fight, we wouldn't have gotten a position change from Hillary Clinton on trade, the TPP, or Keystone for that matter. Right. So given that, isn't the big issue Wall Street right now? Bernie has been on Wall Street since day one. The bailout of the banks, what they did was went out and bought more banks, and the big got bigger, and now they're not regulated. He wants Glass-Steagall reinstated. She's pretty coy on that. Isn't this the big issue, making America recognize the operation of Wall Street and how it's keeping the working folk down?
Yes, I think it is, Ed. I mean, I think the big issue today that Bernie Sanders is going to run his campaign on is that we have a rigged economy in America that is held in place by a corrupt system of campaign finance. Okay, that's what it's all about. And at the heart of that issue is Wall Street, which is funding campaigns through bundled contributions and through super PAC donations, and Also, the fact that Bernie Sanders' record on these issues goes way back for decades, whether it's standing up to the bailout, when it happened, whether it's trying to get Glass-Steagall back into effect, whether it's opposing Wall Street at every turn and every vote. Now, it's hard to oppose Wall Street when you rely on them to fund your campaign. Okay, yeah. I would argue that it's impossible. So, and listen, that's a legitimate fight, and Bernie is trying to redefine American politics today by saying we can go to the grassroots, we can ask people to contribute, we can compete with big money campaigns by raising small dollar contributions. No one has ever done that before the way he's doing it at an unprecedented scale, and I think people are going to respond to it in Iowa, New Hampshire, and elsewhere.
Tad Devine with us here from the Bernie Sanders campaign on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Looking ahead, it's pretty clear that the Congressman Paul Ryan from Wisconsin, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, is going to be Speaker of the House. He'll be the 54th Speaker of the House. And if you follow Ryan's career, his budget, his priorities, I think we could predict that there's going to be a vote to get rid of minimum wage in the House. There's going to be an effort to privatize Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and change the payout structure of Social Security. There'll be no support of infrastructure. There'll be an emphasis on defense spending. Isn't Paul Ryan a real opening for Bernie Sanders on the campaign trail? That if he's the House Speaker and I'm the president, we're going to have some real fights and I'm going to win these fights? I mean, doesn't Ryan help define Bernie Sanders even further with people that are still investigating who they want to support?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, listen, if they want to put that agenda on the table, and I'm sure, as you say, he will, that, what we need to do about the minimum wage is cut it, not raise it. What we need to do, the way we fix Social Security is by cutting benefits, not increasing them. If they want to talk about programs like Medicare and privatizing them, I would say we welcome that fight. And if Paul Ryan can put that on the table and make it a centerpiece of American politics, Bernie Sanders is going to engage on that because those are the issues at the heart of his campaign. That's what motivates him in political life. So, we welcome Ryan's entrance into this debate. Hopefully they will do that, and I know Bernie will fight him at every turn.
Okay, finally. No one cares about your damn emails. That, of course, was the big comment in the first debate. Was that a positive or a negative for Bernie Sanders now that the testimony of Hillary Clinton in front of the House Special Committee on Benghazi is now behind us?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a positive. I mean, Bernie has never wanted to make an issue out of something where, it's being investigated by the FBI, it's being investigated elsewhere, it's been part of, the Republicans turned it into a partisan issue. He was not going to do that. He let the investigations go on, let the chips fall where they may on that issue. What Bernie wants to talk about are the big issues of whether or not somebody's going to fix the rigged economy in America and whether or not somebody's going to take on a corrupt political system of campaign finance. That's the heart of his debate. So I think what he did, and certainly the way he did it, which is in his own unique style, was very powerful. And listen, remember, if we're going to win this election, a lot of the people who are going to vote for Bernie Sanders in February are people who support Hillary Clinton today. And we wanted to make it clear to them that the difference he has with her is not on something she did with some emails. The difference he has with her are on big issues that they care about. That's what we want the campaign to be about.
Tad Devine, always a pleasure. Great to have you with us. Keep up the fight, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed.
Tad Devine with Bernie Sanders' campaign, and we will visit again. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Stay with us. More on Paul Ryan and his agenda when he becomes Speaker. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com, www.biogreenclean, and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Now, if Paul Ryan is going to be the next Speaker of the House, let's be fair-minded about this. Do you really think that there's going to be more money spent on infrastructure and less on defense? Do you really think that there is not going to be an effort to privatize Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security? And the conversation isn't going to become more intense from a leadership position on what we have to do for it with entitlements? And what about minimum wage? These right-wingers who are saying that, well, we've got to change the House rules. These House rules are going to be changed to push a right-wing agenda. This is all about more votes, faster votes, fewer procedures to go through to make sure that they can push what they want. And so I think all of the things that Ryan has supported in the past, a radical budget, and what these Tea Partiers want to do, are all going to come to fruition. This is going to be a tougher fight. So you have to imagine, okay, let's say Hillary Clinton gets the presidency. How's she going to deal with Paul Ryan? What about if Bernie Sanders wins the presidency? I know how he would deal with Paul Ryan. This is Jordan saying that, the congressman from Ohio saying that Ryan is the guy.
Well, we do have a commitment from Paul to work on changing the rules, and we may get even some of those changed before the vote this coming Wednesday and Thursday. So we think that's a good step. Plus, also, one of the things Paul wanted was this change to the motion to vacate the chair. We have not agreed to that. But we think, as Mr. Needham discussed in your previous segment, we think Paul has the kind of vision and is the kind of messenger our party needs to accomplish the things we told the voters we're going to accomplish. So we're excited about that. He didn't quite get the endorsement threshold we have in our group. But our members said, a supermajority of our members said, we think Paul Ryan's the right guy at the right time to lead our conference.
You got it. That's about as good as endorsement as you could get. Now, notice that this Mr. Jordan from Ohio, who was exceptionally tough on Hillary Clinton in the hearings last week, he's going to now be one of the new media darlings for the right-wing media in this country. So you're going to see a lot of him, and there he was giving his take on Paul Ryan being the next speaker. For more on all of this, let's turn to John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation. John, good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Ed.
We're going to see a further right agenda with Ryan, are we not? And we're going to see these freedom guys walk him like a dog. That's what I think.
Well, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. I'm not sure how hard they have to walk him.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that most of what you ran through there is stuff that Paul Ryan believes.
Yeah.
People, because he is a relatively amiable guy, because, wears his suit well, looks kind of corporate, and is very corporate, there's folks who presume that he isn't extremely right-wing. He is extremely right-wing. That's one of the reasons why he was so instantaneously acceptable to a House that couldn't agree on anybody else.
Well, the House Freedom Caucus is always going to be further right than anybody they're going to support because they're trying to differentiate themselves. I mean, behind closed doors, they're really accepting to the point of a supermajority, but not an endorsement, Paul Ryan. Well, if they come out and endorse him, then they're not far right enough. That's what I think. I mean, they're thinking, okay, supermajority is enough. Let's not go far with an endorsement because we might have to go further right when the time comes.
Exactly.
What do you think?
Precisely. And here's the interesting thing. Ryan said initially, no, I need endorsements from all these folks. Freedom Caucus comes back and says, well, we're not going to endorse you. We're going to give you a supermajority. Ryan said, oh, that's cool, right? The fact of the matter is Ryan is doing a dance with the media, and the media, by and large, is eating it up. They're accepting it. And that is that he doesn't really want to be Speaker, that, oh, man, this is sort of a tortured thing. The fact of the matter is Paul Ryan is a very aggressive, very strategic political player. It's not that he doesn't want to be Speaker. It's just that he wants to be Speaker on his own terms.
Okay, so let's move forward and talk about a Democratic president. Mm-hmm. Will there be as much gridlock between Ryan and whoever's president, Hillary or Bernie Sanders, such as we saw with Boehner and Obama?
Sure, yes. I mean, to think differently would be silly. It is true that some of these Republicans were particularly hateful toward President Obama and particularly aggressive in their obstructionism. And maybe you'll see a little bit of a shift in some on the margins of that. But the one thing to remember is, Ed, they have figured out a way of, quote-unquote, governing. Yeah. And the way of governing is to say no to anything they don't want.
Let's
and
shift
they
now
don't believe in compromise.
No, they don't. And there's nothing in Ryan's past to prove that he believes in compromise outside of his own party. All right, let's turn now to the entertainment factor. Donald Trump. Trump slipping a little bit in the polls, but still a force in all of this. Here he is taking a shot at Ben Carson, who apparently is now leading him in Iowa. Says Carson's asleep at the switch or something like that. Here it is.
We have a breaking story. Donald Trump has fallen to second place behind Ben Carson. We informed Ben, but he was sleeping. Ben Carson is super low energy, right? It's super. He's super low. Super low energy.
Carson responded to that on the Sunday shows about his energy, his demeanor, and what his past is all about.
I have plenty of energy, but, I am soft-spoken. I do have a tendency to be relaxed. I wasn't always like that. There was a time when I was, very volatile, but, I changed.
When was that?
As a teenager, I would go after people with rocks and bricks and baseball bats and hammers. And of course, many people know the story when I was 14 and I tried to stab someone. And, fortunately, my life has been changed and I'm a very different person now.
Well, I'd hope so. But I don't know what kind of scrutiny he's going to get from the right wing, the same way President Obama got scrutiny for his association with Reverend Wright. So I'm waiting to see what the conservative media does with his past, admitted past, about how he used to be. But he's a changed man. He says Christ has turned his life around. This may be one of the reasons why he's doing so well with the evangelicals in Iowa. I don't know. Iowa's a mixed bag. John Nichols, your take, number one, on how Trump is handling the poll drop, which is slight, and number two, the way Carson's now presenting himself. Your thoughts?
Well, number one, Trump has had a project over the last couple weeks. It has been immensely successful, and that is to destroy Jeb Bush. And the fact of the matter is, if you take a look at what's happened to Bush, Trump's achieved his goal by focusing there. He's had a minor poll drop in Iowa. Remember, Iowa almost always picks the most evangelical candidate. It picked Huckabee in 08. It picked Santorum in 12.
Yeah.
And so Iowa was always going to be a little challenging for Trump. But here's my bottom line. Anybody who thinks that a little shift in the Iowa poll, and by the way, there's a poll that came out today that showed Trump and Carson tied. A CBS poll came out yesterday.
Yeah.
And anybody who thinks a little shift in the Iowa poll is a big
Doesn't mean
problem.
anything.
Trump is being silly.
Okay.
The fact is, he knows what he's doing.
Let's go back to this point you made that Trump's mission has been to deep six Jeb Bush. And this is a soundbite that accentuates that.
The whispery campaign's already started. The Bush is falling apart. He may not even
blah 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 blah.
What's your? You know what they're saying out there.
That's my answer. Blah blah blah. Watch it. President Kane was winning the Republican primary in 2007. Senator Clinton was up by 25 points against an unknown guy named Barack Obama 8 years ago. I think President Giuliani was leading the field for a brief time, more or less this same time. And so you look at the race. October is not when you elect people; it's February.
Well, you might make the case that Jeb Bush's campaign's on life support. I don't think he's quite located the defibrillator yet, but the fact is that he is cutting down on expenses. He's also reducing pay. This is Trump's response to all of it.
Here's a guy wants to run our country, and he can't even run his own campaign. So Bush has no money. He's cutting. He's meeting today with mommy and daddy, and they're working on their campaign. Okay, they're working.
So what does this mean? Trump really hasn't even dug into his billions to try to get the nomination yet. He's got this huge reserve. So are we not giving Trump the due credit of being a political strategist that he might be? That he's gone after Rubio. He's gone after, he's bloodying up Jeb Bush right now. It seems pretty methodical, John Nichols.
You're exactly right. And I hope I am giving Trump the credit he deserves as a political strategist. I happen to disagree with him profoundly on the issues. But I have watched Trump since he got into this campaign. And the fact of the matter is, every time he points his energy, which is largely, conveyed by national media, not by paid advertising.
Yeah.
Every time he directs his energy at someone, that person is done terrible damage. Who was his first big target? Scott Walker. Where's Scott Walker in this race? Who did he go after next? He has gone after several other people along the way, including Rubio. Rubio just is not getting traction. Now he's gone after Bush. Bush is looking to be in dire straits. And if you'll notice, just in the last 24 hours, he started to talk about the fact that Ben Carson is a Seventh-day Adventist, which is obviously different than a traditional evangelical. I think you are going to see Trump go after Carson at a certain point. Mm-hmm. And when he does, that'll be the great test, because Carson does have a loyal following. There is no doubt of that. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we should underestimate Trump's skill at knocking other candidates out of the way. And I would also add to you, one final note. They just had a poll that came out this morning, an AP poll, that said, do you think which of these candidates can win the presidency? Among Republicans now, they say the highest number say Trump is their most likely winner.
Yeah, the inevitable is starting to set in. I just don't see Ben Carson doing a national play. I think he'll do well in Iowa, maybe okay in New Hampshire, but for the national play, I think he is maybe in the same boat as Bernie Sanders. It's a wait-and-see thing, okay? If he does well in those two openings, the first caucus state, first primary state, it's going to be a wait-and-see from that point on. I just think the guy's too goofy. I just think that he's just too far out there for the conservatives to embrace. And I think that Trump seriously has got a political strategy to eventually take down all of these traditional Republicans and separate himself as a guy that, number one, is not Washington, number two, can create jobs, has experience that the Oval Office needs, and he'll give a hell of a fight to either Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. That's where we are right now. John Nichols, always great to visit. Appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks.
Pleasure, Ed. Take care.
John Nichols, Washington correspondent of The Nation magazine and great friend of this broadcaster. Ed Schultz News and Commentary brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, Bio Green Clean, and the iSave team. We're back tomorrow.